Hey, so today I'm really excited that I have my friend Emma here to join me to talk about film pitches. We have a film pitch template from Zacht Studios, my agency, available for free for anybody to use on pitch.com. There's another whole video about it on the channel here, but Emma is an expert, and well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Emma. I am a production leader for feature films and documentaries. I have done a lot of work in that, but I focus very specifically now on impact media because I have a background in public international law, focusing on human rights and climate change. So I also work as a project manager for nonprofit organizations and as a researcher for human rights organizations implementing climate within their organizational strategy. So a lot of different things, but I'm here as a production leader right now to talk about your production film day.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Thanks for joining me.
Great.
One of the reasons, like you said, that you're here today is if other people have seen on this channel, there's a film pitch deck template that Zacht Studios, my company, has made and is available for free on pitch.com. And I wanted Emma to roast it. I wanted some feedback from someone in the industry. All of the work that we do at Zacht Studios, I think it's really important that it is based on reality and that it is helpful for people that are actually trying to use it, not just the vanity project or anything like that. So the film pitch template I want to be useful, and I thought that we could talk about it because you have experience making and seeing a lot of these, a lot more than me. I see a lot of pitch decks, but not as many as I'd like in the film industry. And then, I figured we could just talk about like what would be helpful for someone that's trying to pitch a film.
Sounds good. Love it.
First question, what's the difference between a movie and a film?
Ooh. Wow, that's a very philosophical question. I think it's in the eye of the beholder, in the same way that you can't really say that there is a good or a bad film because taste is subjective. So I think people would say that a film is more artistic and there's more creative mindset behind it, and a movie is, the blockbuster films that we see in the theater. I don't entirely adhere to those descriptions because I think that if you enjoy a movie, then that's it. That's what you're supposed to be doing. There are filmmakers that make a movie with a very specific idea behind it, and especially for like impact producing, which I also do a lot of, then you're making a movie partially because you want the audience to enjoy it and them to see it, but you're also creating an entire campaign to create impact. That's one reason to make a movie. There are other reasons to make movies, namely entertainment. All of those are movies and all of those are films. So. Okay,
good. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So it's subjective a little bit.
I think so.
So as it relates to this pitch deck, with all pitch decks, that's only part of the process. There's so much work that goes on before you start making a pitch deck. And then there's probably a ton of work that happens as soon as someone sees that pitch deck.
So much.
Assuming they like it. Maybe you could 10,000 feet, 10,000 meters, 3,000 meter view.
We're in Europe, so yes.
Yes. What's the steps? I have an idea. I want to make a film. Somewhere in there is the film pitch, but what are all the steps to making a film?
It's a 4-year process at least, and that's pretty much when you start actually, submitting your film pitch, and then it's 4 years. So
a short 4 years.
If everything goes according to plan. I think the very first step is having an idea. That's the pre-production period. So you talk about the pre-production period, the production period, and post-production. There's also the pre-production, which is creating your idea, logline, synopsis, go further, make a treatment, go further, make a script. I think the difference also a bit within Europe, at least, and in the US, is that in Europe you have more you have less private funders, so it's much more public funds by the government or smaller funds, and you do a lot more co-productions internationally. the US, it's big companies that give you lots of money at the same time. So like you're also creating a pitch for different types of organizations. So I think that's something that's very important to pay attention to. But so you have your pre-production period, and that I know it's so ridiculous. And that's where you submit your pitch deck, and you create your pitch deck, but you also submit your pitch deck, because that starts with just trying to find funders, basically. Yeah,
relatable to all industries, I think, is
truly. Yeah, and then so that's your pre-production. Then once you actually get some funding, and I think get some funding, and then also what are your next steps? So casting, finding your crew, finding sort of the things that you need to make your film. That's the pre-production period. Location scouting, big one. Pre-production period, and then production is when you close like the financial stuff, and you start filming, and then post-production is editing.
Okay.
So that's kind of it, but there's obviously a lot.
No, of course. I think it sounds like the pitch deck is mostly used to secure funding, but I also feel like with all the other pitch decks that I work on for any kind of industry, it's also a way to focus your story, figure out some of the details, align on them within the group that's making the film in this case.
Yep.
And also tailoring it, like you said, to the audiences that are specific, and probably many different audiences, and tailoring it specifically for all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable thing. I mean, your pitch deck is pitching your idea. So you can also, like, I mainly make pitch decks or similar types of things for funding, because that's what that's where my expertise lies. But there are people who also make pitch decks for cast and crew, sending it to that one actor or actress that you really want in your film. It's like, how do you convince them to be a part? It's partially the script, and if you have a good script, that should be it.
It should be enough.
But realistically, I think it's also great if you have like visual imagery, like what type of film are you making, and as a result, does that line like the oeuvre of the actor, of the cinematographer, and what are your ideas, and you can like brainstorm that with the people that you're going to make the film. Yeah.
Maybe add a couple extra slides talking about the character to help entice them.
Exactly.
Oh no, half this deck is about you.
Yes, people in the film industry can have somewhat of an ego.
Really? I haven't heard that.
So yes, absolutely. To cater, that's the thing, cater to your audience and alter the pitch deck somewhat to the person that you're sending it to.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to open up the laptop and look at the film pitch template that my agency's created and get your real thoughts.
Love it. Sounds good.
So, what we did, well, actually, the origin of this is I was playing around with typefaces, fonts, and I was like, oh man, this would be so cool to use for like a movie thing. And so that's literally, I made this slide. I was like, Dracula, and I was like, yeah, but like there's like that's kind of a time period to this vibe. Anyway, long story short, short story short, this slide was made first, and then I was like, why don't I just make a film pitch template finally? I thought about doing it for a while. We've worked with some companies that are making films and film related products, so I thought it'd be like a really cool opportunity. So I put this together, Pitch saw it and was like, we would love to add this to our template gallery. So this is now available for anyone to use for free. But I would love to click through it with you and get your thoughts.
Sounds good.
Okay. It's a good start. The second slide is introducing the director.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel?
I'm always a bit more, but that's the question of, who do you center in the film? Do you center the film, or do you center the person making it? And I'm always a bit more like, we start with the film. We start with the logline, maybe a very short synopsis. That's my personal thing. Especially if you're a beginning director, that's that would be my first suggestion, because no one really knows you as a beginning director. And then there's a bit of like, why do I care who it's directed by? That being said, it's not a bad thing to start with you because it also shows like who you are, what your ideas are, what your experience is. So I think it's a bit of a question of, well, first of all, do you believe in your story? Do you believe in the story that you are currently creating? And yeah, what do you want to center? Personally, I'm always a bit more like, let's focus on the content and a little less about the person specifically.
Sure, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. That's the thing to emphasize about templates is they're good starting places.
Absolutely.
You have to change them. You have to customize them. Not just the content on the slides, but also the story that works with you. This may work if you're like trying to talk about how you came up with the idea and how it relates to your background. You might want to introduce yourself. But like you said, there's plenty of other ways to start these presentations.
Yep.
After that, introduce an executive summary.
It's good. It's not really a big. Regarding the budget, TBD, I think it's good to give it somewhat of an indication budget, especially if you're pitching to funds, because otherwise they're like, yeah, sure. Why?
Why hasn't it been determined yet?
Why are we? What amount are we giving, and why are we giving it? So that might be something that you could add to, at least if you're pitching to funds. But if you're pitching to, a crew member or a cast member, that doesn't really matter. But I think that that's an important thing to add for the shoot, especially if it's a feature film. 1 month is a little optimistic.
Sure.
So always make sure that you add the entire shooting period. And also, perhaps that might be a bit much for a pitch deck, but if you're pitching it to, for example, if you're pitching it to a cinematographer, I think it's good to not just do the shooting period, but also like the pre-production period, because you have to talk to them, you have to see what their availability is. So again, cater it to the person that you're sending the pitch to. But I think overall, it's pretty good. I like it.
Great advice.
Yeah.
The story team.
Yeah, that's good. It's always good.
I would imagine there's more than 2 sometimes.
I hope so. Especially for a feature film, it might be a little difficult.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's always good to add more people. Well, you definitely have to add more people because that might be it. I think there's also a bit of a question of, do you add everyone? Do you add bigger names? Also, I think what you did is really good, where you added their like CV or their filmography. What have they done before? How does it also relate to the film that you're currently making? Because you could be, inviting a. I love that I keep bringing up the cinematographer.
It's good.
Yeah, but it works. You could add a cinematographer to your team, but they haven't actually done anything. Like they've only done commercials and they haven't done any film. Why are you choosing this specific person for the story? You can add someone who, you're doing a murder mystery and you add someone who's only written romantic comedies. Like, why are you choosing this specific person? And if you are adding them to the story team, which I think it's always good to do, explain why you're doing that.
Right.
So I think that's a good little thing that you can add, but other than that, it's good.
Show your work.
Yeah.
So you're saying that maybe this could be like the senior story team or the foundational story team, and then you could like have a slide that's maybe like the rest of the story team.
Yeah,
you can duplicate this and have more.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've done that with the production team as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think is great. And same things for the I love the 6th of blood, by the way. But no, it's the same thing. It's who you're adding to the production team. Good to know also that there are different types of producers. So you have the sort of overall producer who works with you through the entire project. They do the funding, they do the closing, they do the managing of the post-production. But you have a specific post-production manager, you have a specific line producer who helps during the shooting period. If you already have these people, add them, because it shows that you are thinking about not just your first steps, but the entire process. So yeah, just add everyone. in that regard.
It sounds like this could be like pages and pages of people. Would you think to move that to the later in the deck?
Yes, absolutely. It's part of the reason why I said focus on the story first, because that's what people are giving the money to eventually. They're obviously, if you have a good team behind it, that's very important because it ensures that the movie is actually made. But the story is the selling point, I think.
So if you're going to circulate this to somebody that has a little bit of an ego, put them at the beginning, and then when you go to send this to potential funders and investors, it can go later.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, story introduction.
Love it.
I'm thrilled at this picture. We got to sit on it for just a second because it was so fun to find this one. All these ones are from Unsplash. So I introduced the story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to read it here.
I'm currently reading it. I think it's good. Maybe somewhat missing Dracula, but that's
Sure.
Yeah, that's well, I guess the dark figure.
The string of murders.
Yeah, yes, of course, yeah.
The string of murders that leads back to the dark figure.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's clear you're setting the scene. I guess maybe in an American suburb, and then it's the 1960s. You're setting the scene in like two different settings, or not per se two different settings because they're the same setting, but in two different areas and placement. So that might be something that you want to think about. Like, is this a logline? A logline, for the people who don't know, is like your one sentence that sort of sells the movie off the bat.
It's in the next slide.
Love it.
I was going to ask you to define a logline, so I love it. You're ahead of it.
So that's a bit of the question. Like, is this a logline? Are you setting the scene? You know, that's something that you can think about. And if you're setting the scene, you are currently setting the scene in like two different ways. So there's a question of like, sure, is that something that you want to do? Is that necessary? It's not bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just a question of how do you want to like tailor that to your specific needs.
So what I did here is I tried to introduce the setting of the story, and then I also tried to introduce the like cultural context at the time. Mm-hmm. Maybe less successfully. Maybe bringing those together would have been more successful.
It's not per se unsuccessful. It's just more a question of will everyone understand that, and not per se that I'm, other people might have understood that immediately. So it's not like I'm perfect in that regard. But yeah, that would be, just think about that.
Yeah, it's a good consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about loglines.
So logline is it's the first thing. So here, perfect. You're explaining the background. You're explaining our protagonist, and you're explaining why the movie is called the way it is. That last part you don't always have to do because sometimes movie titles just kind of like we never really get an explanation, and that's also okay. But in this regard, we do because it's 1960s and it's Dracula, so that's great.
Well, and I think my understanding too is oftentimes during production the movie title changes.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it hits marketing from the production company, and then the changes again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very often. I mean, you might start out a film or creating a film with a very specific idea and a script and this one title that you feel is absolutely, truly perfect. You're going to make so many changes to the script, to the title, to the logline, to literally the characters' names. Like every single minute detail could possibly change, and you need to be open for that. So it's part of the reason why the logline, it helps that the logline is somewhat vague. Like it doesn't hold too many details partially because it's going to change, but also you don't want to go into too much detail in a logline because you want to sell someone basically from the get-go.
From recent memory, do you remember the movie Edge of Tomorrow? With
No.
Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise?
Yes. Yeah, I'm back. Thank
The
you.
marketing for that movie was Live, Die, Repeat. The movie's called Edge of Tomorrow, and people were, I guess, confused of what the name of the movie was, that there was a period where they, after it released, they called it Live, Die, Repeat as the release title, even though the movie is called Edge of Tomorrow. And then it was Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat. Yeah. I don't think it is that way anymore. But.
I hope not. And I think that that's also, that's actually a really good point. You often have a distributor who has like an entire marketing team. And I mean, unless you're a beginning filmmaker, you often do this by yourself. But if it's a bigger film, you have that marketing team that is going to be, they have a level of expertise that you just don't, and that's okay.
That's okay.
It's good that you're involved in it, especially in the beginning process. Like, what type of ideas do you want to convey? And you can create a pitch deck for that, honestly. But they will take the reins in that, and it's good to be aware of that, but also just to let that go and trust the experts.
Yeah, trust the process. Yeah. I just remember Bill Paxton, R.I.P., was in that movie, and he was so good. Big fan. Okay, then I introduced the main character that we just introduced in the logline.
Yeah, that works. I think, that it changes per character, obviously, regarding the past and the present. Like, sometimes you're just in the present, sometimes you're only in the past. It doesn't really matter in that regard. I think it's great. I think it's important, basically what you do here, not to divulge too much information, because, it's a pitch deck. If they're interested, they'll read the script.
Right.
You wanna leave your audience a little bit enticed. So
okay, yeah. So maybe this might be better for the actor that we're trying to cast for Victoria, to give like, oh, here's your motivation, here's your backstory. Maybe that could be more enticing to them than the potential funders.
Yeah, I think for the potential funders, it's it might be more interesting for them. You could have this, and I think it'd be good to give some idea about like your main character, but you could add possible people that have inspired you to write this character, or who you would like to see in this role. I think that would be, it gives them a visual image.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. That would be good. Yeah. Like, ooh, my dream casting for this.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Good, I like it. Mood board.
Love it.
Some pictures.
It's always good. I think it's, I think a mood board is always very important, very necessary. Obviously, if you're creating a pitch deck, in some way the pitch deck is already a mood board.
Fair, yeah.
But, so one thing that I would make sure is that the pictures that you were using in the pitch deck, if they are different, don't also use them in the mood board, because obviously then, because a very like double thing is like, were you not able to find different pictures that like conveyed the same mood? But other than that, mood boards are really good. They're not just good for the pitch deck, they're also really good for your own creative process. So I would always suggest making a mood board.
Well, yeah, to bring up the cinematographer again, they would probably like to know what your mood board for it is. So
yes, absolutely.
This is probably work that will get used a lot. Again, just want to mention these are free photos from Unsplash. I think it's a really good resource if you're just looking for photos about general stuff. I also like Adobe Stock if we're looking for paid stock photos. I like this variety there, but there's lots of resources. Just don't steal stuff.
Nope, never steal stuff. Mood board.
I liked the idea of introducing some language.
Yeah.
Some more mood setting. This is a continuation of the mood board. It doesn't say mood board on the top. But...
no, I think that's honestly really good. A mood board doesn't just have to be pictures. I think that's something that people also sometimes misinterpret. It can be words, it can be ideas. Just make sure that you're not using too many words. Like, don't go the other way.
A pitch deck should be glanceable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As unfortunate as it is, people spend about 4 seconds a page on a pitch deck. So having a powerful, immediate takeaway is really important.
Yeah.
The continuation of the mood board. I just want to give some photo layout alternatives.
Yeah, no, great.
some production details.
Perfect. I think one thing that you can add to shoot is maybe the difference between location and studio.
Oh, nice.
Because you have like on-set or on-location shoot days and you have studio shoot days. I think that could also be a good thing to add.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I like it. Additional details. These summaries,
obviously,
it's nice. I like the play of the maybe a little bit more detail in your summary. Yeah. Some advantages to the style that we've chosen.
Yeah, that's. I think that's great.
A fake schedule, somehow set in the past. I may have made this deck a year ago.
Yeah, that's. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I guess development and pre-production are kind of the same, but that works very well.
I love pre-production, honestly.
It's nice. It's you continue in the production atmosphere. Important with development is that you also add your funding.
Sure.
Because that's going to take some time, and you need to be somewhat flexible in not entirely flexible in your shooting period, but also a little bit, because it might take a bit longer for you to get the funds that are needed, or be realistic and be like, okay, maybe a 27-day shoot was somewhat optimistic.
Maybe this is one of those 60-minute movies.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. We're fine. No, honestly, dream big. Please do, because there are going to be so many people who crush your dream and do not want you to be creative and will, bring it down to a skeleton and make sure that you are as adamant about making the movie that you want to be making. So please do that first and foremost. But in development / pre-production, give yourself some time to find funding, to find the right, obviously in pre-production, to find the right cast, to, give yourself some time for that.
Yeah. And I think now, in 2023, post-production, I think there's always, the VFX takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully their union wins them more normal working conditions to
seriously
take longer to do VFX, but in a more responsible way.
Yes, absolutely. And pay your writers and pay your actors, because it's hard. It's hard to make a film. So
and that's why we're fundraising,
exactly.
So we can pay all those people.
Exactly.
This demographics information is Googleable.
Yes.
I didn't make up these numbers. I might have made up these numbers. I don't clearly remember. Maybe the numbers are fantasy.
Wow, yeah. I like that.
But I think you can Google and get a lot of this information, or once you start having conversations with people in the industry, you may be able to get this information from production companies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also not an entirely crazy idea to just email a distributor or a couple of distributors and say, hey, I'm making this film, or this is my idea. Quick cup of coffee, could I just pick your brain about what are the things that I should be looking at? Is my film going to make any money whatsoever? 9 out of 10 people won't respond to you, but that one person might respond, and I think you could get some really good insights on that. That's also part of making a film, is just putting yourself out there.
Yeah, shoot your shot.
Yeah.
When you're gonna have to put yourself out there to fundraise.
Oh God, yes.
You're gonna have to talk to people that have money that you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Scary. These are distribution channels.
Mm-hmm. I very much read fantasy as fancy distributors.
We're changing it. It's fancy distributors.
Yeah, that works. Something that is definitely more up and coming is, well, not even more up and coming. It's there. We're living it. Is the streaming channels.
Of course, yes.
Streaming channels, especially if you are able to sell your film, they will also give you some production budget. It's definitely a question of, do you want that? Because they also have a certain say, and oftentimes Netflix will, give you a deal, and then if the movie does successfully, you have to make 2 more films in that same series.
Okay.
And that's a question of whether or not you want that.
Contractual obligations.
A little bit. They exist, but they are a very good way of getting your film out there. So if for some reason you do have that connection and you feel strongly about that, that's definitely a distributor to add to the list.
Definitely. I think I heard last year there was a show that was in post-production when Apple bought it, bought the rights for it. So that could also happen after.
Absolutely.
After the fact. Some comps?
Perf. Yeah, no, there's...
I had real movies in here, and then Pitch was like, can we do not real movies, just in case? So I would say use the actual movie poster or DVD artwork for these, but these are tons of movies that I had in here.
Birth on the Orient Express. It's a nightmare for a different reason.
Well, what's the opposite of murder? The girl with the dope tattoo is maybe my favorite. Also the 8 with the 8 in it.
The force out. Honestly, they're all great. Girl.
And more comps?
Yeah.
Nosferatu. That one is more subtle.
Yeah, Dracula with a K as opposed to C.
I don't know why someone hasn't done that. And Von Helsing does seem like a Dutch film.
But actually it's German. Because it's Von Helsing.
No, I know, but the V-O-N. Oh, yeah, that is German.
Yeah. Because it is Von Helsing, right?
Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Oh, which is Dutch.
Yes, exactly.
It's Dutch normally.
Yes. So this is German, and normally it's Dutch.
You can see how well I'm integrated. And then contact information.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. Dracula@coffins.com. Let's go. No, perfect. That's great. Yeah.
Anything that's missing?
If you already have it, link to the website.
Okay.
Yep. Other than that, not really. Perhaps. No, I think this is pretty good. Something that you could possibly add if you feel like it, but that's also a question of, are you just sending the pitch deck or are you sending more, is attachments, so the budget, the full budget,
Sure.
the possible other funders, the scripts, obviously, that kind of stuff. But for the pitch deck, I think it's perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And since we're on the contact screen, I think this is a great chance for you, Emma, to share any way that you want people to contact you, anything that you're looking for.
Okay, yeah, what am I looking for? Life. Existence. No, fair. My company is The Biggest Picture, so my website is thebiggestpicture.org. There you can find all my contact details. My email is emma@thebiggestpicture.org. I'm based in Amsterdam and would love the opportunity to talk to you about film pitch decks, about film in general. If you want to work together, hit me up. Be great. I also do international work, so that's pretty much it. I think that's my information.
And we'll link all of that below as well, so that'll be accessible.
Appreciate it.
Emma, thank you so much for being on my YouTube.
Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
I'm going to do that one more time because my YouTube sounds really rude. Emma, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Perfect.